Oh, guys, are we on? Good morning. I don't even. Yes, good morning. Good morning, everyone. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, we have a wrong password. We have a nuclear alert. Donald Trump is claiming that they're going to restart nuclear testing. Now, look, guys, I've been quite clear what I've been saying about nuclear weapons and nuclear testing. I've said previously that I don't believe a nuclear weapon will ever get used. What I've also said is, and I stick by that, what I've also said is, weapons are going to be used, before that happens, there will be a series of tests. Why? Because these nuclear weapons that people use, you can't just pull them out. It's not like keeping like the Christmas china under the kitchen table. These nuclear weapons, you have to test them. There's engineering, there's materials in those nuclear weapons that decay over time. So you need to pull them out. You need to them off, you need to test them, you need to make sure everything still works. You then need to put that into a delivery system. So the whole process, it's not something that you can just click your fingers. A good example of this is when Britain, what's his name? What was the guy's name? The defense secretary in Britain. They went out on one of the nuclear submarines, and the nuclear, I think it was Grant Shapps. Britain tests and a weapon, and it went and straight back down. So these things fail, and like any system, if it's not checked, if it's not tested, if it's not maintained, they will fail. So that's what we're talking about this morning, guys. We are talking about the nuclear threats, the nuclear threat that is, I believe we've moved a step closer. So maybe I was wrong, guys. Maybe we are going to see a nuclear detonation. Hang on. On the mainstream, guys, because the girls had a sleepover last night, so I've literally just had to run into the house. So I think the last time there was a nuclear test, it was in I think it was like 1992 or something. I may be wrong on that, guys. Right, I'm just going to go with this from the BBC. We'll use this as our main article, and then we'll continue. So Donald Trump directs nuclear weapons testing to resume for the first time in 30 years. This is a big move, guys. This is a really big move. People, you can't understate how much of a big move this is. Now, whether this happens or not, I don't know, but it does look like that's the direction of travel. Now, this is clearly to counter the threat from Russia. This is clearly to counter the threat from China as well. So President Donald Trump called on U.S. military leaders to resume testing United States nuclear weapons in order to keep pace with other countries such as Russia and China. So it does look like we're entering a new arms race. Because of other countries' testing programs, I've instructed, this is Donald Trump speaking. Because of other countries' testing programs, I've instructed the Department of War to start testing our nuclear weapons on an equal basis. Social media before meeting with Chinese President Xi in South Korea. The United States has more nuclear weapons than any other country, Trump said. You see, everybody argues about this, don't they? Everybody argues about who's got the most. We've got the most nukes. No, we've got the most nukes. No, we've got the most nukes. You know what, guys? Kind of doesn't matter. Yeah, since 1992. Kind of doesn't matter who's got the most. What matters is who can use them and who can deploy them on time. So the United States has more nuclear weapons than any other country, Donald Trump said, with Russia second and China in a distant third. It has not conducted nuclear weapons testing since 1992. It comes just days after Trump denounced Russia for testing a nuclear-powered missile, which reportedly has unlimited range. So yeah, again, with this nuclear missile that the Russians have, guys. I was wrong about this. It's actually I thought this would have an RTG and it'd be propeller driven. It's not. They use nuclear. They use a nuclear material to heat air, and then that air is exhausted out the back, and that gives you your drive. So with that, then, I think that system, it would have to be air launched, or it would have to get up to a certain speed before it can continue, because it wouldn't have the power. Well, it would have the power, but it wouldn't have initial power for takeoff. So, right. Let's get some questions. Let's get some chat, ladies and gentlemen, because it's good morning. It's good morning, everyone. Listen, guys, we're double streaming. Why are we double streaming, Sean? Because I've been banned off TikTok again. Yes, I have, good sir. But you know what? I think I'm going to leave TikTok to their own little TikToky things, because literally I got banned from TikTok because somebody called me a retard, and I repeated it. I said, user, what? A retard ban. I was like, all right, thanks. Somebody calls me a retard and I get banned. I'm like, how's that fair? Do you know what, guys? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It's off. It's gone. It's over. Let's not cry over spilled milk. From now, he's saying, oi, 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 hello. From now, Templar Matt, Jody Lee, hello, everybody. Good morning. Right. Googlino is saying, Sean, in fact, let me open the chat on. Googlino is saying, Sean, the US is now testing. I don't what the framework of these nuclear tests are. I don't know if they're going to happen. I don't know whether it's just bolstering. I would suspect it's just bolstering, and I think announcing that there's going to be nuclear tests and conducting nuclear tests, there's a lot of stuff that needs to happen in between that. It's not just like Pete Hegseth can get on the phone and say, hey guys, crack 2 off this afternoon. It just does not work like that. Donna Hogan is saying, morning, just literally opened my eyes and saw the title. Donna Hogan, why are you in bed so late? From now, he's saying, you said in a video a few years ago, if both start testing, that's when we should read. Yes, do you know what? From now, I did. And listen, guys, I stick by what I say. At this point, both sides start testing nuclear weapons, which, again, I don't think is going to happen, but I may be wrong. That's when you need to start to worry. And I came out with the assumption, once the Ukrainians went into the Kursk region of Russia, I was like, right, that is the perfect time for Russia to use the tactical nuclear weapon. Think about it, Russian nuclear doctrine is, we will only use nuclear weapons if there's an existential threat to Russia, to Mother Russia. I've just realized I don't have the lights on. So the Russians will only use a nuclear. That's what back then, that's what it was anyway. So I don't know what more of an existential threat you can have from the Russian side of things. I don't know what bigger threat you can have than literal soldiers invading your land and having a war in your country. I don't know what bigger existential threat you can have. So, in that context, that would have ticked all the boxes for Russia. It would have ticked none of the boxes for NATO, none of the boxes for the United States, in the context that the United States have said if Russia uses a nuclear weapon, then the United States would take out all their capacity with the Air Force conventionally in Ukraine. So that would, the Russians, Russia. Well, look, we've not fired a nuclear weapon on Ukraine. We fired a nuclear weapon in Russia. It was a test. It's not my fault you Ukrainians were running around. So, and in that context, it would be very embarrassing if it would be very embarrassing if the Russians fired a nuclear missile into the Kursk region and it didn't go off, which it probably wouldn't. But you know what wouldn't be embarrassing? If they drove a nuclear weapon in on the back of a truck and it didn't go off. Do you know why? Because nobody would know about it. Nobody would know about it. So do you know what? Maybe that did happen and we just don't know about it and it just failed. I don't know. So I don't think I didn't think nuclear weapons were going to be used, but as from now saying, I said a while back, and it's true, you're not going to see a nuclear exchange until both sides have their systems working. There's a lot of engineering that goes into these nuclear weapons, guys. There's tons of chemistry and engineering that I'm not going to claim to understand because I don't. You've then got to put that nuclear bomb into a delivery system, and that delivery system is, predominantly an intercontinental ballistic missile. again, lots of engineering problems that you come to, and unless you're doing this regular, you can't. You'll have tests, they'll fail. You'll have another test, they'll fail. You'll have a test, it'll be good. You'll have another test, it'll be good. You'll be right. We're ready. The next one's going over there. And that's when you bring yourself up to that readiness. Karma Creepy Queen is saying, I think the Russians do the Tsar bomb. Yeah, so the Tsar bomb was the biggest nuclear bomb. I think that was the last one they ever did, actually. The last test they ever did. I remember that. It wasn't. No, it definitely wasn't the last one they do. But that certainly was the biggest one that's ever been detonated, the Russian Tsar bomb. And when you think about the size of these things, guys, the dust cloud of the Tsar bomb, the Tsar bomber, I think it went up like the dust cloud, the mushroom cloud. I think it went up something ridiculous, like 60,000 feet. 60,000 feet, which is like, no, 60 kilometers. 60 kilometers. I think it. I'll Google this, guys. I'll Google this. I think it. Right. I'm saying the dust cloud went up 60 kilometers. 40 miles, okay, 60 kilometers, 40 miles, okay. So yeah, I was wrong, but I'm a lot of this stuff I give you guys is off the top of my head. So yeah, so just imagine that, guys. Imagine how big that bomb was when the dust cloud goes 40 miles high. 60 kilometers. Did I say 60 kilometers? I think I did, didn't I? So can you imagine how big that bomb is? Can you imagine that thing dropping in the ocean off the coast of... can you imagine 2 of those now being dropped, one in Grimsby, one in Blackpool? That would cause a radioactive tidal wave to just chop the United Kingdom in half. Sean, Netflix released a new trailer for 30 seconds accidentally and people started recording it. I don't know what that means, guys. Googlino, I don't know what that means. Netflix released a new... I don't know what that means. I have no idea what that means. Somebody put me onto that. I must be... I'm not cool with the kids, guys. I'm not cool with the kids. Donna's saying Tories call for Rachel Reeves to quit after breaking home rental rules, but PM rules out an invest. Isn't this funny, guys? Isn't this funny? Like, look, isn't it like, if you live in the United Kingdom now, it's a joke. Like, it's just a joke. Do what I say, not do what I do. So Rachel Reeves, the woman who's making it virtually impossible for small businesses to operate, for people who are, and what Rachel Reeves is making it very difficult to do is, we know this, I know a few people who've got like one house or something, and they're not like multiple landlords. If you meet your partner and you've both got a house, if you meet your partner, you've both got a house, and you decide to live together, and then you're like, right, well, do you know what? We're not going to sell that house because we're both working. We don't really need the money. What we're going to do is just going to rent it out, and that's going to be a second income. Those people, they're the ones who are, who these taxes and these things come down. Those people who just have I know a few people who just got like one house and stuff. They're really good landlords. They're people who rent to the community. They don't charge astronomical prices. They'll be very particular about who they put into that community, because normally that's like their house. And remember what I talk about when I talk about affinities, where I used to live, guys, in the Yorkshire countryside. I grew up in the Yorkshire countryside, to watch cricket. If you're renting your house out, your old house out to someone, you're going to know the neighbours. You're not going to want to put a douchebag in next to the neighbours that you like and you spent, 10, 15 years living next to. You're not going to do that. You're not going to do that. You're not going to be a douche. You know, if you sell that house then to an international investor, they're going to turn that into a house of multiple occupancy. And guess who they're going to cram in there? As many as they can. That's what's going to happen, guys. And then the community rots from the inside. So it's kind of like a multi-pronged attack that we have at the moment in the United Kingdom. Sorry, I'm going on a side quest. Donna. So Rachel Reeves, I'm not going on a side quest. Rachel Reeves, the woman who's making all this possible, she's actually admitted to not following the government's own laws. And as I understand it, and I may be wrong on this, guys, but you're supposed to, when you rent a house out, you're supposed to have these checks come in. So I think they check like your gas, the electric, just make sure the house is safe, basically. Good old Rachel didn't bother doing that, and she's admitted to this. And Keir Starmer said, yeah, we're not bothered about that now. So guys, look, how many times have I said this? How do we oppose that? What if it was something more drastic? And I know some of you guys might think this is menial, but what if Rachel Reeves did something really bad? She went Hillary Clinton. What would you like right now if Rachel Reeves went Hillary Clinton? And it was all out there, and it was just, yeah, we know that she's gone Hillary Clinton, and the Prime Minister said, yeah, we're not going to be investigating her. We're fine with that. How do you roll with that, guys? How do you roll? And it comes back to what I always say, ladies and gentlemen. In the United Kingdom, we have no way to oppose a tyrannical government. And this, this evidence of it. I know this is only little evidence, but what if this was something bigger? What if it came out, I don't know, David Lammy had done something really bad as well, like really, really bad, and he wouldn't stand down, and Keir Starmer still supports him, and just nobody talks about it, Keir Starmer with his mates and the funny hats, funny wigs, the wigs they wear. I don't know why they wear those wigs. They say, yeah, we're going to put a super injunction on this. Nobody's allowed to talk about this. And you're like, oh, right, okay, well, you're not allowed to talk about it then. Zoe Dean is saying these politicians think the laws they make don't apply to them. Zoe, I agree 100% with you, and this is what I've been saying all along. It's all well and good people going to these protests, having your 1 million man march, having a 2 million man march, having a 10 million man march. What is actually changing? And without that legal framework, ladies and gentlemen, to oppose a tyrannical government. Guys, just out of interest, did anybody have a conversation with anybody, friends or family, about how the United Kingdom would oppose a tyrannical government? Because that really is key. Oh, Debbie is saying, Sean, why are your streams on you? Is the quality bad? Guys, is the quality bad? What are we talking about? Are we talking about the video or the audio? Guys, is it the video or the audio? Google it is saying, oh, so they released a Stranger Things advert, right? Okay. And it's out today. Video and audio, right? Okay, right. Listen, guys, what I'll do. Oh, hang on. Right, listen, what I'll do, ladies and gentlemen, I'll cut this live stream short. What I'll do, guys, I'll cut this live stream short. I will go in, guys, because I'm only double streaming now. What I'll do is I'll go into the house and I'll connect onto the. I'll actually connect in. I'll do the rest of these live in the house. Out here, I've got like a little bit of a setup with quite a few screens. So what I'll do later on, guys, I will go into the house and I'll do the live streams in the house. It'll be better. It'll be a lot warmer for me. And you know what? Maybe that's the direction of travel we'll go. But the internet should be a lot better in the house. Danny Walker is saying, well, the Mayor of London has done. Mayor of London, I think he's saying has done. I think your fingers were going, or you're also correct here then. well, the mayor of London has done something wrong covering up the grooming gangs. Yeah, look, you're getting so many of these isolated incidents now. They're not isolated anymore, are they? And like, Danny, I've said this quite a few times. Let's just say, for example, let's just say that this is true. Look, guys, and I'll be quite honest, I've not seen any evidence that Sadiq Khan has covered it up. I've not. What I've seen is refusal of Sadiq Khan to answer the questions, which you could argue is covering it up. If you're not going to acknowledge that there's a problem, But, there are a lot of people out there saying that Sadiq Khan has covered this up. I'm not privy to any of this information. If he has, and I want to be clear about that, guys, if he has, and if he says, and if the evidence comes out and it's, you can't deny that evidence, and he doesn't stand down, and he says, no, I'm not standing down, and the Prime Minister says, yeah, I'm not going to do it either. Yeah, whatever, he's how he rolls. And then he wins the next election. Where do we go from there? Do we just accept that, like, doing that sort of stuff in that town, in the city of London, in London, sorry, is okay and it's right on, and that's how you roll there? And Sharon is saying, I bet there's a lot that they don't want us to know about. Yeah. So what normally happens in these investigations? So when you go to do one of these audits or an investigation, you uncover more shit. Like, you uncover more stuff. Like, a good example of this would be, the Doge in the United States, where Elon Musk and his team went in and they were finding all this stuff. They were finding all this money, all this money that was like nobody knew where it had been going. And that's what I think would happen. I think once people start to, because things get brushed under the carpets, guys, they really do. Paperwork gets buried, paperwork gets lost. People just intentionally don't follow on with cases. It happens, I was speaking to a police officer. I'm not going to mention it. Well, it's not going to matter. I'm not going to mention his name, but he used to work as a police officer in Chesterfield. He was ex-military, and I used to work with him in overseas. And while I was working overseas, the grooming gangs scandal broke about Rotherham, and they were saying, "Oh, Sean, you come from Rotherham." I was like, "Yeah, I do." And I was talking to him, and he was saying, nobody wants to investigate that kind of stuff. Like, police officers do not want to investigate it. They go, "Oh God, I don't want to investigate that. I don't want to go out there. I don't want to talk about this," because it's like, it's a conversation that people don't want to have. So I do think that had a big part to play. And the guy I'm talking about, he wasn't worried about being called racist at all. He just didn't want to deal with that stuff. And I totally get it. Like, I played a video to my mum the other day, yesterday actually, and she got halfway through and she started crying. She said, I can't listen to this. I can't look at it. So I do understand this, a lot of these things will be swept aside. And like Sharon's saying there, guys, look, I do believe there'll be a lot more information come out about this, information that we don't even know yet. Even information that we can't even perceive. Do you guys know the story of Adam? Do you know the story of Adam, guys? The boy Adam. Oh, hang on. Yeah. Do you guys know the story of Adam? You start going down that. The boy Adam, who was found in London. You start going down there, guys. It is an absolute dark path. It leads you to Haitian voodoo, and then once you start going down that path, you start going into like a really dark place. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, listen. Let's get back on track. Nuclear. Khan is Cain is the serpent. All right, I didn't know that. Amelia is saying, do you think conscription is coming? Not yet, Amelia. I don't, it's not, I can't, I'm not saying it's not coming in the future, but right now I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing conscription in the United Kingdom. Why? You've got to look how these, you've got to look at, rather than looking at the British military as the British military, you've got to look at the British military as part of the European military now, gearing up to fight Russia. You can't look at it as but Britain's only got this many troops. No, it's the whole of NATO now. And Britain have the best force projection capacity. Nobody else, like in NATO, can do it as well as Britain. And the only other can do it as well as Britain is the Americans, and they can't do it better. They can just do it more. So Britain has that force projection capacity in the context that they can have men, and it is men, 1,000 miles away waiting. In 24 hours, they can be 1,000 miles away, deep behind enemy lines. They could have taken a facility, whatever, and they can hold that for a limited amount of time. That's what Britain's really good at. That force projection. Now, when you do force projection, you need a very highly trained, you need very highly trained and very highly motivated soldiers. Because things go wrong, people have to improvise. You know, these guys might be parachuting in. One of the aircraft might get out of the sky, so straight away they're on the mission, and they've got half the guys, and they've got to complete the mission still with half the guys, so they need to think on their feet. Conscripts are not going to do that. Literally, conscripts would not do that. Conscripts will run. So that is going to be Britain's role. Where Britain lacks the heavy armor. Britain lacks the artillery. Britain lacks the ability to hold ground. So Britain can take ground. We can't really hold that ground. Not really good at holding ground. And that's a fact. You know, we don't have the armor to do that. You know, but Germany, Poland, you know, Lithuania, all the Baltic nations, all the rest of the Eastern Europeans, they do. And they would be more likely to use conscripts in that context. So once Britain surged in, took a piece of land, Britain would leave, or the British troops would leave, you know, and the Polish, the Germans, whoever would go in, and those troops don't have to be as highly skilled. Those troops don't have to be as highly motivated, because they're not doing that. They're not doing that strategic strike. So no, I don't see it coming yet. If things change, I will let you guys know. Alice is saying lots of RAF US planes above Norfolk today. Yeah, I think there's 3 bases, 3 US bases in the United Kingdom. They fly all the time. There's an exercise going on at the moment. I don't know if that's part of the exercise or not. Hang on, there was just a comment up here. Yeah, someone sent me this last night. He said, "Is this you?" So there's a British military instructor accused of spying for Russia. I would say that the Ukrainian intelligence service is really good. I'm not gonna say it's really good. The Ukrainian intelligence service is really good. They know everything. I've been hacked twice, and both times it's been by the Ukrainian security services. I've got nothing to hide. I don't mind. Just a little hack. In fact, listen, guys, if any of you have ever been hacked, it's terrifying. You don't know who's done it. So at this particular time, I'm not going to tell you the companies I was working for. So I was at a meeting in Ukraine, and was meeting with this guy. There was, I don't know if you've ever been to like these meetings when you're both trying to work each other out, and you don't know who they are, and they don't know who you are, and everybody's a bit cagey. So there was me and 2 other guys. And we was meeting this guy. It doesn't really matter who he was. And I remember one of my friends saying, "Oh, have you got your phone? I'll WhatsApp it to you." And the guy who was meeting said, "Oh, I don't have my phone on me." He said, "Oh, all right." And I thought that was a bit weird. I was like, "Right, okay, whatever." Anyway, he said, "Oh, okay, right, I'll email it you." And he got his laptop out, and I don't know. I think he had a SIM card in his laptop. I don't know, or maybe he just took his email down. I don't know. Anyway, when we were at this meeting, you could blatantly see this guy who was at the meeting with. He had people behind him, like watching us and like doing this with their phones and taking pictures of us, which is fine. You know, I've got nothing to hide. Anyway, that night, I go back to my apartment, and I went to do something on my phone, and my phone was just going wild. It was like somebody was just going through. It was like my messages and my photos. It was like somebody was just flicking through them and doing whatever they want. So I was like, "Oh God, that's weird." So I tried to reset it. Yeah, as you do. I thought it's got some water damage or something. I tried to reset it. Still continued. I turned it back on. It did the same. I was like, "Oh, that's a bit weird." So I turned it off. Had a cup of tea or whatever. Came back. Turned it back on again. Oh, no, it's still doing the same. So I thought, I'll just leave it. So I just left it. So I just left it on my bed, got a shower. Anyway, next morning, I went into the office next morning, and I said to one of the guys, I walked into him. He was at the office. I said, "Excuse me," I'm not going to tell you his name. I said, "Excuse me, mate. Have you where can I get a phone?" I said, I think there's something wrong. I think of my phone. I think I must have got water damage or something in my phone. Last night it was doing like wild stuff, and he looked at me and went, "What do you mean, John?" I said, "Yeah, my phone last night it was doing this." He said, "My phone was doing the same too." I was like, "What?" He's like, "Yes." So his phone was doing the same too. So we'd both been at this meeting yesterday, the day before, and both our phones were doing the same thing the next night. Anyway, so we went up to the floor above. The next guy who we went on the meeting was, and we said, "Hey, mate, has anything happened to your phone?" And he's like, "No, why?" And he says, and we told him what had happened to our phones, and he said, "Holy shit, he didn't take his phone on the meeting, but he had his laptop, and the same thing happened to his laptop. So all three of us had been hacked." So, you know, it's absolutely terrifying when you get, we didn't know who we'd been hacked by at that time. Now, a couple of weeks later, another guy in the office, he starts getting phone calls. He starts getting phone calls saying, "You have a washing machine. I want to collect the washing machine." So he's like, it's like in Ukrainian or Russian or whatever. He's like, "Yeah, I don't know what you mean, mate." So give him that. Yeah, he says, "You want a washing machine?" And this was on his burner phone as well. So like a Nokia 3310 or whatever it is. What you guys know what the burner phones are. Yeah, that was it. Anyway, it kept going. So the first time it happened, he thought it was just the wrong number. He's like, "Yeah, we haven't got that, mate. It's wrong number." Anyway, it kept going and going and going. So he said, "Right, next time somebody phones me up, ask them if you want this washing machine. Find out what it is. Like, I don't like why people got my number, and why do people think I'm giving away a free washing machine in Kiev?" Anyway, so next time he phoned up, somebody asked him for this washing machine. One of the interpreters got on the phone. He said, "Right, what is it?" And he said, yeah, you're giving this washing machine away." Anyway, honestly, if you want to see a man's face go from laughing about and joking to ice cold, pale, like being sick, there's a website called VKNet. It's what the Russians use instead of Facebook. It's called VKNet. I don't know if you want. It's got whatever. It's called VKNet. Somebody had made a profile about my friend with his real name, where he lived in Kiev, everything about him, and put it on that VKNet, a picture of him. So somebody had been taking pictures of him. And they put his phone number, and it's just like, "Hey, everybody, does anybody want a free washing machine? This is what, phone me and I'll give you this free washing machine." Now, that's not threatening, is it? That's not threatening, but can you imagine the implications of that. If somebody did that, if you were working in a foreign country for a foreign government and those guys were at war and the spooks operating all over, what they were basically saying to my friend is, we've got you, we know who you are, we know where you live. Honestly, guys, like this, like the cyber warfare, it's horrific. Anyway, sorry guys, I went on a massive side quest again. So it looks like the Russians have responded. Donna Hogan is saying the Russians have responded from Sky News, saying Russian politicians say Trump nuclear tests mark the return to an era of unpredictability and open confrontation. We've got to see what happens, guys. Okay, we've got to see what happens. I'm standing by what I said. I'm absolutely going to stand by what I said. Let's see if we actually see nuclear tests or not. Let's see if we actually see those things go kaboom. Because it's all, you know, Donald Trump likes to do this. You know, if you've watched Donald Trump for a while, we're going to put 100% tariffs on China, 200% tariffs on China. You know, he goes in for the meeting and it's a business tactic. So let's see if these nuclear tests ever go ahead. But let's continue, guys. Let's continue, because Trump's post on Wednesday night acknowledges the tremendous destructive power of nuclear weapons, but said he had no choice but to update and renovate the United States arsenal during his first term in office. So the key word there, guys, is renovate. Well, you know, it's like I keep saying, it's all well and good. You know, it's all and good claiming to have 1,000 nuclear weapons. You know, we've got 1,000 nuclear missiles. It's like claiming if you've got a scrapyard, it's like claiming you've got 1,000 cars, but none of them work. Half of them have got engines. They've all got a wheel missing. Most of the windows have been put through. Half of the gearboxes are gone. Most of the seats have been torn out. Yes, you do have 1,000 cars. You do. You have 1,000 cars. All right. Can you drive anywhere? Oh, no, I can't drive anywhere, but I've got 1,000 cars. So it's really key to keep these nuclear weapons updated, renovated, refurbished, because there's a lot of materials that are in these nuclear weapons that just decay over time. Priv Caro was saying, does France have nuclear tests? I feel like it's when they also start doing tests. It's when we need to worry. Who else has nukes? Yeah. So France is the main nuclear. France is the main nuclear player in Europe. The United Kingdom, of course, we have our own nuclear deterrent, but France have a lot more nuclear infrastructure. They just have a lot more nuclear infrastructure. A lot of our power. When we're struggling for power in the United Kingdom, a lot of our power comes from France, and a lot of... Sean, get my comment right. Which one, Googlino? And a lot of that power comes from the French nuclear system. The US has greenlit South Korea to build its own nuclear-powered submarine. I would suspect this is to counter. You know, the North Koreans, and to give more capacity in that region. Because let's not forget, we've got Ukraine and Russia fighting. We've got the Middle East that's going absolutely bonkers at the moment. Let's not forget the big guy. You know, the big game in town is China. So, you know, giving the North Koreans nuclear submarines gives the Americans, and it gives NATO and their allies, it gives them a huge advantage in that disputed South China, the China South. Is it South China Sea? I think it is. Endeavour to Preserve is saying, let's give them something to talk about is a country music song, also known as bargaining. Yeah, you know what, Endeavour to Preserve, I do think that may be what the case is right now. The news of the day, ladies and gentlemen, is a nuclear alert. We can't understate it because it's happened. You know, it has happened. President Donald Trump has called on US military leaders to resume nuclear weapons testing in order to keep pace with other countries, for example, Russia and China. If you guys remember, Russia has developed the long-range nuclear powered cruise missile. Again, I'm not sure what gap that fills. I think it's they're trying to fill a gap that doesn't exist. But what you've got to understand is Donald Trump does like to give these, give people something to talk about, and I do believe, this could be a bargaining chip. For example, before he goes into a meeting, I've ordered my guys to start nuclear testing. We got the best nuclear weapons, the best the world's ever seen. And then they're like, oh God, Donald Trump's doing nuclear testing. Right, let's come to an agreement. Let's come to a negotiation with him. Let's do that real quick. Danny Walker, yes, absolutely, 100%. Digital ID could, and I believe it will be used in conscription. If you guys think about Russia are actually, this is how the Russians do the conscription now. Let me just get this up, because this is how Russians do conscriptions. I think they call it mobilization, actually. So this is Russia. This is Russia, guys. Okay. Can you imagine this, ladies and gentlemen? Can you imagine this, right? So as Danny Walker's saying here, digital ID could be used in construction. So Russia, this is from AI, Russia uses new digital system to issue electronic draft notice for conscription and mobilization, closing loopholes that previously allowed evasion. The system creates a single digital register that consolidates a person's records and imposes automatic restrictions on those who fail to report for duty. So how everybody, you get these people saying, oh, this wouldn't happen in Russia. Yeah, it's happening in Russia. So guys, look, yes, can you imagine that? You're there, you're with your girlfriend, you're sat in front of the fire, you've got your kids, you're reading them a bedtime story, and excuse me, you're reading them a bedtime story. Next thing, beep, 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 you look at your phone. Oh, right, well, guess I'm conscripted. See you later. You're off. That's it. You've got to go. Because they turn you off. They literally, they impose automatic restrictions on those who fail to report for duty. So you can imagine it now. If you need to use a digital ID everywhere, getting on a bus, you guys have seen it now. I saw it in, I was going to do a video. I had my phone out and she opened the gates. I went to Asda the other day. What was I going in for? Right, hey, guys, listen. You guys know how I love my two for £5 pizzas. Asda are doing 2 pizzas for £5, 2 medium pizzas for £5. So I thought, right, I'm gonna go get 2 medium pizzas. So I went in and there was a massive queue, and I thought, right, I'm not waiting for that. Anyway, so I walked out without pizzas. To get out of Asda now, you're not allowed to get out. And obviously I didn't have a receipt, so I was just stood there and I'm looking at the gate and I'm thinking, this is literal kidnap. Like, holding someone against their will is kidnap. Now that's going to be the way, guys. That's going to be, you're going to go somewhere, use your digital ID, and then if you don't want to leave, then you're not going to leave. That is going to be the reality. So it comes from Russia, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking about digital identification and conscription. Russia uses a new digital system to issue electronic draft notices for conscription and mobilization. I don't know what the difference is. I don't think there is a difference between conscription and mobilization. Closing loopholes that previously allowed evasion. The system creates a single digital register that consolidates a person's records and imposes automatic restrictions on those who fail to report for duty. Can you see how many other things this digital? Can you see how many other things this digital ID could be used for? Right, everybody, come and get this injection. It's safe. It's safe and effective. No, I don't think it is. No, it's safe and effective. No, I'm good. Right, we're going to turn you off. We're going to turn you off on your digital ID, and we're going to stop your universal basic income. Okay, I'll come. Hands, face, and space. From now, he's saying Asda does the best pizza. I used to look, guys. Listen, guys. I used to get right, guys. Listen, right. Yes, Asda do a great pizza, and I'm not going Pizzagate on anyone, guys. That's not code. All right, that is not code for like me wanting a pizza and spending 15 grand on getting a pizza delivered. No, I'm not talking about that, guys. I'm literally talking. Right, I'm talking about the counter at Asda or Morrison's and saying, "Can you do me a medium thin crust, ham and pineapple for the kids, not me, guys, for the kids, not me, with extra cheese." That's what I'm talking about, guys. All right, yeah, and me and Sarah will have like a spicy beef or something. Right, ladies and gentlemen, look, guys, what I'm going to do is because of the oh, hang on. Donna is saying, if a nuke drops, head down, fingers in your ears, open your mouth and get to the ground. When at home, fill all gaps and move away from windows and doors. I still think it's unlikely, guys, that these nuclear weapons are going to go off. I think the real threat is from sabotage from the United Kingdom. But yes, Donna is absolutely right. Look, guys, what I'm going to do is, all right, I'm going to close this live stream down now because I know the sound is not as, the sound quality and the sound quality and the picture's not as good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this down now. I'm going to go back. I'm going to go into the house. I'm going to reset this up and I'll come back on this afternoon and we'll do a small live stream. We'll do a little live stream this afternoon, guys, and that will just be to test the camera, make sure everything works. But I think while I'm just double streaming on YouTube and X, I think I should go in the house, guys. So I don't need the TikTok setup. Yeah, Linda Clark. I don't think we're going to ever see one anyway. My reasoning for it is wild. So it's totally different. But yeah, I agree. We're not going to see one ever again. Louise Lee, hello, Louise Lee, is saying, when I was 13 in the 80s, I begged my mum to let me watch a film called The Day After. It traumatized me. It was about the nuclear war bomb. Yeah, these things are traumatizing, guys. When Einstein gave his E equals MC squared, and then I think, who was it? What's the guy? They did the movie about him. It's not Teller. It's not Edward Teller. Can't remember, but when they were initially looking at this to build the nuclear, they didn't start by building a nuclear bomb. They wanted energy, and then the military came and they were like, "Tell me again about this energy release." So what you're saying is it could be a really big bomb, and they're like, "Yeah, actually a really big bomb." But look, guys, the future is nuclear. The future is nuclear. And I don't mean like nuclear war. I mean the future of energy is nuclear. Right, ladies and gentlemen, listen, guys. Let me close this down, okay? Nuclear alert. The game just changed. Donald Trump's calling for nuclear tests of their systems. I don't know where we're going with this. I will be quite clear. I think there's a long way before that actual test happens. If that test does happen, I will be very surprised. But if that test does happen, guys, two of the things I've said previously, and you guys have been following me for a while, I don't see any prospect of an exchange of nuclear weapons until both sides, or do you know what, maybe all sides, have done a series of tests, because you can't just pull these things out of the bottom drawer and throw them in a missile and expect them to work, guys. I'm going to close this down a little bit early now, guys. I'm going to go back in. I'm going to go into the house. I'm going to sort this internet out with you guys. I'll be back on later this afternoon and we'll do another live stream. Anyway, guys, listen, thank you for hanging out with me this morning. Sorry I've cut it short, but just keep that in mind. okay? We are moving closer now to nuclear weapons being used. I still think it's unlikely, but there we go, guys, okay? I will see you guys later.